Okay, this feels like a topic that needs to be addressed a little bit more in depth. So, from 0 to age 7, we are all sponges. You've heard this term before. We pick up everything. All the impressions from all the relationships going on around us, we absorb and we emulate. Just like everything we hear, we say. So you've heard little 3-4-year-olds running around copying everything you say. It's because their subconscious mind is wide open. They don't really have a conscious mind filter yet. That happens around age 7, 8 years old. That's why some call age 8 the age of accountability, because the conscious mind comes into play at that time. So before that, everything that's going on, all the relationships that you are observing, especially your primary caregivers, their relationship to you and their relationship to each other. So usually a mom and a dad. If one is absent, then the mother or the father will take on sometimes both roles for that youngster. And say there's a single mother, the different men that come into the life of that mother, the children will watch those relationships and will start to emulate or either want to be like or not want to be like that person that keeps showing up or not showing up. So, in a healthy family, even if it's so-called healthy from the outside, there's still issues and dynamics going on. In my childhood, my parents were very happy and are still married, and they love each other, but there's still certain dynamics that play out that you absorb as a young child that you don't realize that you're absorbing. So my father's never one to yell back at my mother. I've never heard him raise his voice at all in all of my life. Now, on the one hand, that's very admirable, and on the other hand, sometimes I would hear my mother yell at my father. And sorry, Mother, I love y'all, but sometimes I would hear that and think that my dad was weak or that he needed to yell back. So these impressions were left in my early childhood. So as I grew up, there were also certain other key points. My mother and I were not as close as my father and I. My father and I had intellectual conversations a lot, got really deep into deep subjects that still excite me and intrigue me. So these patterns developed for me, and they developed for all of you, that when we grow up, we take these first relationships we have and they become our models. And we don't even do it consciously, we do it subconsciously. We are looking for other men or other women in our lives that model those first relationships, or that are completely opposite from them if we had a bad experience. So we're looking to somehow heal or fulfill those early relationships. So this is all happening in the subconscious field. So what happens is it's like these little stories are locked in. These little energies come into play in our field, and they're actually like a pattern, and we are walking around perceiving the world through this pattern of impressions. And it's a pattern, it's a tapestry, it's how we look at the world. And every single person gets one, and it's not just about relationships, it's about everything. It's about what you think about money, it's your personal beliefs about the world, it's what you think about health and sickness and death, it's what you think about love, it's what you believe about everything comes to you in your early childhood. That's why it's such a precious time to guard for your children. And if horrific things happen during that time, it greatly affects a person. So imagine that each one of us are getting stitched and woven this tapestry when we are young, and then we put it on us. We cloak ourselves in it, and we look through it as our eyes to the world. And every relationship, circumstance, job, happening, everything that comes up against us, we respond to it through this tapestry. Okay? So now you imagine two people coming together and they meet each other, and if they haven't done any work to look at these old patterns, and if they haven't gone into their subconscious mind and cleared it out, and they haven't done any work to do anything to this tapestry, and they're still wearing this tapestry. I mean, just imagine I've got this tapestry over my head and I'm walking around and I meet you and you've got yours on, and I can just barely see you out this little tiny space, out these little weavings. But I can't really see you. All I can see really is what's reflected back to me from my early childhood learnings. And that's what's reflected back to me. You are like a hint, you're like a faint shadow back there. I can see you, but I can't fully see you. Okay, there's light coming through, but it's just it's an outline. So unfortunately, most relationships are happening through this veil. So you see this person, and now you've put on them your cloak, and you're basically talking back and forth to your stuff. And this is why we say in a relationship, somebody's spewing at you. It's their stuff, it's not yours. It's because you are literally placing your tapestry over them, and now you're looking at your stuff. They've animated it for you because they're like a head inside your tapestry. So they've animated it, and now it's live and in person, but it's really not real time because it's old time, it's last time, it's young childhood time, and it's not even the person that you met. And they might not even be looking at you from an authentic place. They also have probably their own tapestry that they've put over you. So now you have these two patterns talking to each other. Okay, can you see the problem with this? So the first thing to do in life as we're growing into ourselves and wanting to do self-work, that's what the self-work is. The self-work is clearing out the subconscious mind. And that's the work I focus on, is if we don't get to the subconscious patterns and the subconscious impressions, then we are not authentic beings dealing with each other. We are patterns dealing with patterns. We are shadows dealing with shadows. And this will forever be until you can take off your cloak and you can be with someone who's taken off their cloak, and you can look authentically at each other, and you can know when something comes up that's your stuff, and you can immediately identify, oops, wait a minute, that is not my authentic belief right now. That's not really how I feel. That actually came from somewhere in the recesses. Let me get that out of there. And let me come again from right now in this moment, and looking at each other with authentic eyes, uncloaked, raw. You know, that's why being raw and vulnerable with somebody is sometimes so difficult, or often so difficult, is because that means without the cloak, uncloaked, without the early childhood impressions. Being truly self now is a very vulnerable place, and yet it's the only real true place, because the other stuff, the past is gone. And so it's not even really how you remembered it. It's how a child remembered it. A child logged it. A child stored it. And now as a, quote, grown-up, if you're playing out that, why so many people think that they're dating young boys, or vice versa, immature girls, or we have, you know, the boys club running the country, or whatever it is because the subconscious minds of children are running around. And this is what really needs to be addressed. And so dealing with the subconscious mind, I work with emotion code work, which is very powerful, yoga nidra, which is very powerful, alpha brainwave work, which is very powerful, and there's numerous others that work directly with the subconscious mind, and the akasha, which is the field around your body. So this needs to be addressed, everyone. And if you haven't done it, it needs to be addressed. It won't just go away by itself. That is all.